Welcome back to The Lost Tactician, where we peel back the layers of history to reveal the truths that shaped our world. Today we're stepping into the smoke and chaos of World War II, but not to chronicle battles or strategy. Instead, we're uncovering something far more intimate and revolutionary. The medical secrets born in desperation, forged in blood and kept hidden from the public eye. What if I told you that the medicine saving lives in hospitals today was pioneered in makeshift tents surrounded by artillery fire? That the antibiotics in your cabinet, the plasma keeping trauma patients alive, even our understanding of the human mind under stress, all emerged from the most brutal conflict in human history? This isn't the sanitized version of medical progress you learned in school. This is the raw, hidden story of how war's darkest hours sparked humanity's most brilliant medical innovations. Picture the battlefield at Normandy, June 1944. The sand runs red with blood. Men scream for medics who wade through carnage with supply bags that feel criminally inadequate. Before the war, a simple infected wound meant a death sentence more often than not. Bacterial infections like gangrene and pneumonia killed more soldiers than bullets in previous conflicts. Medical understanding was primitive by today's standards. Doctors had few tools beyond amputation, morphine, and prayer. World War II changed everything, not through careful academic study, but through desperate necessity. With millions of young men bleeding out in fields from France to the Pacific, with burns, shattered bones, and psychological trauma on a scale never before witnessed, the medical establishment faced an impossible challenge: evolve or watch an entire generation perish. What emerged from this crucible would remain partially classified for years as governments recognized the strategic advantage these breakthroughs provided. Alexander Fleming stumbled upon penicillin in 1928 when mold contaminated one of his petri dishes, but for over a decade, this discovery gathered dust in obscurity. The problem wasn't recognizing its bacteria-killing properties, it was production. Growing enough penicillin to treat even one patient required weeks of painstaking laboratory work. Then came the war. Howard Florey and Ernst Chain at Oxford refined the extraction process, but British factories under constant bombardment couldn't scale production. They turned to America, where pharmaceutical companies received an urgent classified directive: solve this problem or condemn thousands to preventable deaths. Engineers adapted deep tank fermentation, techniques borrowed from brewing, to grow penicillin in massive steel vats. Corn steep liquor, a waste product from Midwest factories, became the growth medium. By D-Day, the Allies possessed enough penicillin to treat every wounded soldier, a supply so valuable it remained a military secret. The public knew nothing of this miracle drug, while their sons and husbands benefited from it. Infection rates plummeted. Wounds that would have required amputation healed. Pneumonia ceased to be a death sentence. The Allied forces possessed a secret weapon more valuable than any tank or aircraft. Before World War II, more soldiers died from blood loss and shock than from their actual wounds. Whole blood transfusions existed, but blood deteriorates within days, making battlefield use nearly impossible. Enter Dr. Charles Drew, whose research into blood preservation would save countless lives while he himself faced discrimination due to his race. Drew pioneered techniques for separating plasma, the liquid portion of blood, from red cells. This golden fluid could be freeze-dried into powder, sealed in vacuum containers, and shipped across oceans without refrigeration. On the front lines, medics simply added sterile water, and within minutes, they had a life-saving transfusion ready. Edwin Cohn at Harvard took this further, isolating albumin, a protein that performed the same shock-preventing function as whole plasma, but was even more stable and concentrated. Back home, citizens lined up at newly established blood banks, donating in drives that became patriotic duty. These civilian volunteers, never seeing the battlefield, nonetheless held the power of life and death in their veins. The plasma infrastructure built during wartime would become the foundation of modern transfusion medicine, yet its wartime origins and the racial politics surrounding its pioneers remained uncomfortable truths, quietly downplayed for decades. The physical wounds were visible, but World War II inflicted invisible damage that medical science was wholly unprepared to treat. Shell shock, combat fatigue, operational exhaustion. The names changed, but the symptoms remained horrifyingly consistent. Men who had witnessed unspeakable horrors found themselves unable to function, shaking uncontrollably, unable to sleep, reliving trauma in endless loops. For the first time, military medicine acknowledged psychological injury as legitimate. Rest stations were established behind the lines where affected soldiers could recover away from the sounds of war. This early intervention proved remarkably effective, returning 90% of patients to duty, though we now recognize the ethical complications of such rapid rehabilitation. Meanwhile, surgical theaters near the front lines became laboratories of innovation. Mobile army surgical hospitals brought operating rooms within minutes of the fighting, dramatically reducing the critical window between injury and treatment. Orthopedic surgeons developed new techniques for setting complex fractures using metal pins and plates. Plastic surgeons pioneered reconstructive procedures for devastating facial injuries and burns. Anesthesia methods improved, allowing longer, more complex operations. Each technique was refined through brutal trial and error, with young doctors performing procedures they'd never attempted in peacetime, learning as they operated, their education written in the survival of their patients. The medical innovations of World War II didn't end with the armistice. Research into mustard gas, that horrific chemical weapon, revealed it destroyed rapidly dividing cells. This observation led directly to nitrogen mustard becoming the first chemotherapy agent for cancer treatment. Warfare's poison transformed into medicine's weapon against disease. Massive vaccination programs that protected soldiers from tetanus, typhoid, and yellow fever established protocols for public health campaigns that would eradicate smallpox and control polio. Air evacuation, initially developed to transport wounded soldiers, became the template for modern emergency medical helicopters. Every trauma center, every antibiotic prescription, every psychological treatment for PTSD traces its lineage to those desperate years when necessity forced medicine to advance faster than anyone thought possible. The collaboration between academia, government, and industry during wartime created a model for medical research that continues today. Yet these breakthroughs came at an incalculable cost, purchased with the suffering of millions, born from desperation rather than calm scientific inquiry. Standing here in the present, benefiting from antibiotics, trauma care, and mental health treatment, we're living with the legacy of choices made in the chaos of global conflict. The medical secrets of World War II weren't withheld from malice but from strategic necessity. Every dose of penicillin used at home was one less for a wounded soldier. These innovations remind us that human ingenuity burns brightest when darkness threatens to overwhelm us, that progress often emerges from the places we least expect. The soldiers who served as unwitting test subjects for new treatments, the medics who improvised under fire, the scientists who worked around the clock. They built the foundation of modern medicine through sacrifice, experimentation, and courage. Their story deserves to be remembered, not as a sanitized tale of progress, but as a complex, often uncomfortable truth about how survival and innovation intersect when humanity faces its darkest hours. If this journey through history's hidden medical revolution has opened your eyes to how warfare and survival forge the tools we take for granted, then join us here at The Lost Tactician. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the tactical, historical, and survival wisdom that shaped our world. Like this video if it changed how you see modern medicine, and share it with anyone who appreciates the gritty truth behind historical breakthroughs. The past has more secrets to reveal, and we're just getting started uncovering them. Until next time, stay tactical, stay informed, and remember, the lessons of history aren't found in textbooks alone, but in the desperate innovations of those who refuse to surrender to impossible odds.